I am trying to record audio on my phone. I do not feel like lugging my big microphone all the way to my bedroom. Also, hello, my name is Ned. We never really got a proper introduction last time. Would you like a chocolate croissant? So this month, I was originally going to talk about and play a critically acclaimed game. Something to combat last month. The trash fire that was just 2021 and heavy rain for me. Beat half of the game halfway through the month. I was on a good track to recording the video. And then somebody passed away in my life. I'm not going to get too into it, but grief has me playing the South Park games. I want to preface this by saying I do not think you should play these games. I don't think anyone should play a South Park game. Because it is just that. It is a South Park game. I don't really find a lot of humor in South Park. Maybe they have some good stuff early. I would have to actually sit through and watch all of South Park, which I'm not going to do. The two South Park games are South Park: The Stick of Truth, which came out in 2016, and South Park: The Fractured But Whole, which came out in 2018, I believe. This video also is going to be fully improvised. I'm not going to do any research. I'm just going to kind of talk out of my ass and my little brain. The premise of The Stick of Truth is you are the new child who moved to South Park, Colorado, and the boys are playing fantasy. There are two factions, the elves and, I guess, humans. The titular stick has gone missing. The humans, which are made up of Cartman, Butters, Kenny, and then there are the elves, which comprise of Stan, Kyle, and Jimmy. Eventually, you have the choice to join the elves. Both sides think that the other has the Stick of Truth. Nobody knows where it honestly is. Combat is simple turn-based combat. What is interesting about this game is you get a free action before you attack. So you can either use an item to heal yourself, boost up a power, or every character has a special ability that they can use, like Stan can summon his dog to attack somebody and bring their guard down. Jimmy can play a power note, I think. But yeah, you can either use an item or have a special ability that you can use before you attack in combat. This makes combat extremely easy. I was never super into turn-based combat games growing up, so it was very interesting to sit down and play this game, a game that I had played once in college, and kind of have it click. Now, to be fair, although combat was fun, it wasn't engaging. It was too easy. Just press 2 buttons and you're done. I blew through that game pretty quickly. And right now I would say I'm probably halfway through The Fractured But Whole, which is a superhero-themed game. So keeping with the theme, obviously, of children playing pretend, instead of a fantasy, we shift now to superheroes. They are now warring franchises. This game is both worse and better. Worse because the jokes, to me, it just feels like edgy humor without a point. Extremism in comedy does not always equate the comedy being funny. I did not find a lot of the jokes funny in this game. Granted, there are some funny jokes. I cannot tell a lie. Unfortunately, there are some funny jokes. And also, I'm a genderqueer, pansexual little freak in this game, which is something I did not expect. Going into The Fractured But Whole, I've never played this game before now, and I remember a controversy surrounding this game when some gameplay footage was first released. I believe it was of the character creation, and in the game, when you choose your skin tone, it's labeled as a difficulty meter. So if the darker your skin tone, the harder the difficulty is. I remember that being a major controversy. I don't know if this was a patch. Like I said, totally improvised. But in the game, I found out, like, after 3 seconds of pondering this, maybe actually 5 or 10, realistically, you get a voice that comes in and says, don't worry, this doesn't affect gameplay or combat, it just affects every other aspect of your life, which I thought it was going to be worse, because there are worse jokes. Worse jokes in this game. Good things about the Fractured But Whole. Combat. The combat in the Fractured But Whole uses a grid system, and you have movement points. Items are no longer free, which brings more strategy to the game, because you have to, kind of like a board game, which I have been playing more board games recently, which is why I also think that combat in this one is more fun for me. But you actually have to think about the strategy, like, okay, I can move this far, and I can hit this person, but then this person's turn is next, so maybe I should actually hit them, because then they will die, and then we can just skip them altogether. You also can't block. You can protect yourself, but in the Stick of Truth, you could press X to take a reduced amount of damage. In the Fractured But Whole, you can't, which makes combat also more difficult. Combat is also longer, so I found myself, instead of being in menus for 80% of my time, I feel as if 75% of my game right now in the Fractured But Whole is in combat. You might think combat is almost over, but a new wave of enemies or a new boss comes in. There are special objectives in combat where maybe the goal is to leave an area instead of killing everybody in that area. You get more members in your party. In the Stick of Truth, you only got one person fighting by your side, but in the Fractured But Whole, you get up to 3, which makes it feel more like an RPG. This game feels more like an RPG than the first one, and the first one is literally a parody of Skyrim and Lord of the Rings. A journey. Instead of enchantments in the Fractured But Whole, you have artifacts. And I talked a bit about how enchantments were attached to your armor or your weapons, and you had to unequip them if you wanted to re-equip them to your new armor. The Fractured But Whole gets rid of all of that, and instead, artifacts are what they are called, and they are in their own separate category from costumes, which makes it very nice that I don't have to constantly unequip. I also find myself in the menus much less. Yeah, there's resource management and crafting in the Fractured But Whole. And I've started kind of just saying, fuck it. I've always been the kind of person who saves all of my crafting materials, saves all of my health items and all of my potions. I never use them. This game taught me not to care about that. I'm crafting as much as I can. I'm using the items in combat when they make sense. But yeah, this game is like, I have nothing to lose. Plus, there's nothing really valuable for me to sell other than old artifacts. So why not just craft things anyway and spend all of my shit? In the Stick of Truth, 80% of the time, I felt like I was in menus or managing my inventory. I gave up on collecting cool junk and just sold all of it because it was cluttering my space and I couldn't look at it anymore. I was constantly finding better equipment and better weapons than what I was already wearing. So I would have to go in the menu every minute to 2 minutes, equip all new armor, and then let's talk about enchantments. There are these things called enchantments in the Stick of Truth that basically give you a bonus to your armor or your weapons. They give you a special power. They can inflict special kinds of damage. They're just power-ups, essentially. You equip them to what you want, your chest piece, your sword, whatever. But when you unequip your armor to equip new stuff, the enchantments stay on the old equipment. So you have to unequip and re-equip. And there's no easy button to do that. It's just kind of unequipping, exiting, going back in, trying to find the enchantment out of all of your enchantments that you've collected that you haven't sold for some reason, and finding the one that you want to put on your new stuff. But then again, it gets a little tedious if you're doing that every 2 minutes. Movement, also in this game, was not great. You can run and walk, but I found myself using fast travels. Once I discovered and looked at all of the map, it wasn't interesting to explore anymore. The puzzles I didn't really care about, even if it was one that I didn't 100% this game. And I'm not going to. Movement in the Fractured But Whole is somehow worse right now. They removed the running mechanic, so I can't even run anymore. It's just walking and fast traveling, and so it's worse for me because it's boring. Sure, the map has a little bit more depth. It looks a little bit more beautiful, in my opinion. There's new areas. They reskinned old areas to give them more depth and to make them more interesting. But movement is still worse. I'm also finding myself very frustrated because I want to join the Freedom Pals, and the game is not letting me. I'm stuck in a franchise I don't want to be in with characters I do not like. So I talked a lot about those games. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I don't think you should play them. I know I didn't do a very good job of explaining the deep lore of South Park and its games. But I don't think it needs that. If you really want to check the game out, watch a playthrough of it on YouTube. Or get it ill and get it legally. These aren't good games. And I can recognize that. I've seen Glee 5 times, but I had fun and am currently having fun playing them. If I have learned anything from playing these games, it is that there are similar ones like this out there that are better. There has to be. Right? If you like this video, feel free to leave a subscription, click the comment button, or write a like. If you want to follow me on social media, feel free.